Welcome back to Wills, Wealth, and Wisdom. I'm Wita Jones here again with my amazing co-host and trusted legal advisor, Kathy Evans Williams.
Oh, thank you. Hey, everyone. We are so glad that you're here for episode 2 because today we're tackling a topic that confuses so many people and it causes even more stress. What is it? Probate.
It sounds like a four-letter word, don't it?
Ooh-wee.
Yeah, that's right. Avoiding probate is all about helping you understand what probate is, why people want to avoid it, and most importantly, how you can plan ahead to minimize the burden to your family.
Hey, and it really is a big topic, but listen, don't worry. We're going to break it down so that you feel confident and you're going to be clear about your options, okay? So let's go ahead. Let's dive in.
All right, let's dive in. So let's start with the basics, Kathy. A lot of people have heard the term probate, but they're not exactly sure what it means or when it comes into play. So what is the probate process and when does it apply?
All right, let me just tell you, it is a legal process. In Illinois, you have to go to court for probate, okay? And the process is about determining whether or not the person who drafted the will, if there is a will, is valid. And it's also about settling the estate. So that's really, what it is. And it applies when somebody dies with a will, and it also applies if they pass away without a will.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah. And again, it is a court-appointed process here in Illinois.
Yeesh,
Yeah.
court. Who wants to go to court, right? All
Yeah.
right, well, thanks for breaking that down. So now that we know what probate is, let's talk about why it has such a bad reputation and a bad rep it has.
Okay, it does.
Yeah, so why do people often fear or want to avoid probate?
Let me just say, because it costs a lot.
Man, don't it?
Right, and it's not just the money that I'm talking about, although it costs a lot of money, but it also costs a lot in emotions and mentally, right? Like somebody has passed away, you love them, and now seemingly people are fighting over their stuff, and it just isn't a good look. So it's costly. Right, and also sometimes because the people are fighting, it could cause something called supervised probate, which means that not only do you have to go to court, but now you have to go to court every single time you need to make a decision about that thing that you're going to court about.
Who the heck wants to be supervised?
Who wants to do that? So it takes a long time. It costs a lot of money, and it's complex. If I just broke it down.
Yeah, okay, so that makes a lot of sense as to why people fear it and want to avoid it. That really helps explain those concerns. But what does the process actually look like once it begins?
Okay, so really, like one of the first things is that you have to file the will, and you have to file the petition, and you have to notify the heirs, and the heirs might not be the legatees. And so, I'm not going to throw a lot of legal terms, but if you do a will, you can identify who you want to get certain things.
Right.
And those people are called legatees.
I got you. Okay.
The heirs are the people that are related to you. And so you might say, okay, I have 3 children, and maybe I want to give my car to my best girlfriend.
I saw.
Well, your 3 children are your heirs. Your best girlfriend is the legatee.
Ah, she's the
Okay.
leggy lady. Okay, gotcha.
Right.
Legatee, gotcha.
And so that's the process. You're filing the will, you're filing the petition, you're notifying the heirs. You also have to complete an inventory of all of the assets, inventory of all of the debts. And that can include your creditors, right? So everything.
Man, another bad word, huh? Creditors. Probate creditors. You done cussed me out already. Jesus.
I mean, really, right? And then, once you do all of that, basically the court will then determine who gets what.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay. So now that makes a lot of sense.
I try to break it down.
Yeah, you did. I think you did an amazing job, even as you cussed me out. But you did an amazing job, and that makes a lot of sense. Those steps. But how long does that take? And what makes it go faster or slower? How can we improve on that process, I guess?
Got you. Well, it's going to take at least, in Illinois, at least 6 months.
Yeah.
And they usually give you a date that's like 12 to 14 months out because usually it takes that long to get it all together. But it has to be open for at least 6 months. And so, depending on the size of the assets, the kind of assets, maybe you have a house and the house has to be sold, that can delay it. Maybe you have family members who are fighting.
Yeah.
And that most certainly can delay it. So that, it could take as minimal as 6 months. It could go longer, years and years, as well. So it depends.
Okay, and that makes sense. I know as a real estate agent, I've had a couple of folks who've approached me about representing their estate, the house in an estate. They were the family members, but there was no will, there was no estate plan, as we've talked about. They put a few $1,000s in and they walked away because it was going to take a long time. So 6 months, like you said, sounds like the minimum. But the average may be a little.
It depends. It really depends, because in that scenario where, let's say that you have 3 children, and let's say it's me, I passed away and I didn't have a will and I had 3 children. Let's say one of my children is special needs.
Right.
Let's say, perhaps one of my children is in jail. Let's say perhaps one of my children just, we don't have a good relationship. I haven't heard from them and they haven't heard from me. But now we need all 3 children to make a decision.
Now, under the best circumstances, getting 3 folks to agree.
Come on. Yeah. So that's another opportunity for delay.
Yep, I can imagine.
Yep.
So again, I can see where that timeline could really vary, like you said. Lots of various components involved, and I can see how delays can add to some stress. Really. So let's flip the script a bit.
Okay.
What assets can skip probate entirely? What can skip it?
Okay, all right. And really, really good question, because if you have proper planning, you can shorten the process and you can skip probate altogether.
Okay.
So if you have, let's say, joint accounts, and there's a whole conversation we could have on whether or not you should have joint accounts, with your kids. That's one thing. With your spouse is another thing.
Right.
With your friend is another thing. So joint accounts, I'm not sure if it fits every scenario. But if you do have joint accounts that have rights of survivorship, that means both of you own it. If you pass away, the other one owns it 100%. Right. So that's one way, right, to avoid the probate. Another way is if you have assets and you name a beneficiary, so that if you pass away, the beneficiary receives those assets.
Okay.
You don't have to worry about going to court and identify who gets what.
That's aside from real estate, I'm imagining.
You can do it with real estate, and you can do it without real estate. Oh, you're so smart, girl. Right. But like with real estate, that thing is called a transfer on death instrument.
Yay. Yeah.
And you can do it with other things like life insurance policies.
Okay, I was thinking financial instruments.
Yeah, even your investments, certainly your bank accounts.
Okay.
So those kinds of things.
Okay, got you.
Yep.
Okay.
And then let me just throw this in. You can also shorten the time by creating something called a living trust.
Yeah, people love those living trusts. I've heard a lot of folks throw that around lately.
Yeah, so much so. And we're not going to dig deep into that during this podcast, but there will definitely be a podcast where I go into detail about what is a living trust.
I look forward to that conversation.
Okay.
I think a lot of people are going to look forward to it, so I'm going to make sure I put it out there.
Okay.
Okay, well, that's really, really helpful. And it shows what a little planning can do. Not everything has to go through probate, with just a little planning. But of course, some families do find themselves in the middle of it. Again, like I said, folks die unexpectedly, and that's how I was, asked a couple of times recently. So what common mistakes do people make during probate? I got to imagine there's a lot of them.
Yeah, it is, right? Because, think about it. Someone who you loved has passed away.
Yeah, so you're already hurting. Yeah.
You're already hurting. And it could bring up a lot of anger, right?
That's true. Especially if they didn't prepare, huh?
You left me like this. Right?
Yeah.
Or anger in a different way, in that, let's say the 2 children are very upset because mom left everything to us equally.
Yeah.
And I was the one who was taking care of mama. You were away, God knows where. You never showed up. You never took care of her. And why did she leave everything to the both of us?
Yeah.
Right? So it could bring up a lot of, negative emotions. So sometimes we let our emotions drive us. So that's one of the reasons that it could take a long time. We hire attorneys. If I'm mad at my sister, she might get an attorney, and now we have 2 attorneys fighting each other. And at the end of the day, the attorneys get paid first, right?
And they will stir up some stuff sometimes.
Just saying.
I know you don't do that.
No.
For real. I know you don't, but I've seen it happen.
But attorneys basically try to do their job. But the reality is they're not doing it for free.
No, they ain't.
Right? So That's one thing, leading with the emotions. Another thing is that they just don't file the paperwork properly.
Yes.
You know, because let's say that they don't want to hire an attorney, or they do hire an attorney and they don't provide the right paperwork to the attorney. Gotcha. So not having all of the documents. And then, you know, another thing could be they didn't know Mama had that bank account at U.S. Bank.
Yeah.
Because Mama wasn't telling everybody where all her money
Mama
was.
had that mad money. Yeah.
You know, we don't sit at the kitchen table and say, now you guys know I have an investment at Charles Schwab. Right? You don't do that. No. And so it could just be, you know.
No, I'm just joking.
But you know what I mean? It could be that they just didn't know.
That's true. That's very
that
true.
The person had assets. So that's another reason why there are mistakes made in probate that can prolong, you know, the matter.
Yeah. Okay, and that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, well, those sound like some common mistakes I can imagine, because like I said, I know Mama ain't told you everything.
That's right.
So they could end up being costly mistakes when
It's
Mama
true.
passes, right?
It's true.
So fortunately, a little planning on Mama's part or anybody's part can go a long way. So how can someone plan ahead to reduce probate complications?
Yeah, I mean, first, I really think that you should talk to an attorney.
Yeah.
Right, talk to an attorney and identify your options. You know, maybe a transfer on death instrument is the best thing for you.
Okay.
Maybe a transfer on death instrument and a will is the best thing for you.
Right.
Maybe just making sure that you've named beneficiaries on all of your accounts, because maybe you don't own real estate, is the best for you.
Okay.
Maybe having a living trust is the best thing for you. So you need to talk to an attorney who can give you your options. Yeah. That way you'll know what's best for you. And that way you'll be able to avoid probate.
Okay. I mean, and that, I think all that makes sense. That was a great conversation, Kathy, and hopefully it made the probate process a lot less intimidating for our listeners.
I hope so.
I know, right?
Yes. So listen, probate, you know, can be overwhelming. It can take a lot of time, but with the right knowledge and the plan and planning, it really doesn't have to be.
And that's what it sounds like.
It's true. So really, move forward. Get your estate planning. If you don't have it, get it done. Because if you don't, you know, the state does have a plan for you.
Hello?
Right? I know I've said that before. And you might not like that plan.
Right.
So move forward. Don't wait. Get it done. We don't know what tomorrow brings. But we know if we don't make sure that our business is handled, our business will be handling us.
I know, right? And the last time I checked, ain't nobody's last name State. So we do not want them handling our business. All right, so again, if you take anything from today's episode, let it be this. You can plan now to save your loved ones time, stress, and money later.
That's right. And hey, listen, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Yay.
We try to keep it short and sweet. And if you found today's conversation helpful, share it with a friend or somebody you love who might be able to benefit from this conversation too.
For real, for real. And if it's one of your family members and you don't love it, still tell them, because you do not want to be on the end of that lack of planning. You really don't. So until next time, take care and plan with a purpose.
Your hosts today were Weta Jones, Illinois licensed realtor with HomeSmart Realty Group of Orland Park. You can reach her at ojones.realtor@gmail.com.
And my friend Kathy Evans Williams, managing attorney at the Evans Williams Law Group. You can learn more about her at her website, tewlg.com.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you in the next episode.